Cheers.
Cheers. Well, it's that time again.
I'm Susan,
And I'm Annie.
and
And
this
this
is
is
Two
Two
Friends,
Friends.
One Chat. Just one. Well, two for us, one for you, we decided. We just got done with our pre-chat
Mm.
that you guys probably don't want to be a part of, and at this point won't. It's just a friend chat that we have to have before we jump on with you guys.
I like to consider it a strategic planning vent session where we talk about how we're going to talk about stuff, and it's where really we let our friend freak flags fly, if you may. And because truthfully, when you know someone really well, when you know and they love and they know your heart,
Right.
you can say things that maybe could be misinterpreted. And I hope everyone has a space like that. So,
That is so true. I'm glad you put it that way. When someone really knows you and knows your heart, you're right. There are things you can say that would be misinterpreted by someone else that didn't know you.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, so true.
Yeah, like, when someone's like mean, like, on a very shallow situation, like this is a great example. You're in the bathroom, you see a girl crying, and it's a dude's fault. You're like, you want me to go slash his tires? Everybody knows you're probably not going to slash his tires, right?
Most of us aren't.
Right, but like, sure, could that be considered a little bit of a threat? Sure, sure. So it's
Carrie Underwood
like,
would. She's gonna slash his tires.
Yeah, so you'd have to arrest her too. So I don't know what the problem is here, officer.
That
Oh,
next time I'm about to get arrested, I'm just gonna tell the officer, you don't know my heart.
you don't know my
You
heart.
don't know my heart.
That's right. That's
See
right.
how far that gets me.
I love that. I love that. I also love thinking in any world that you could be arrested. That would be, it would only be for a peaceful protest that you would ever get arrested.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh man.
I would not do well. I would. No, you know what? That's not true. We've seen me in weird situations. Everyone would just be my new best friend. They'd all just want to tell me their whole life story, and I would love it, and I'd listen to it, and be great.
I think you have more of a survivalist instinct than you give yourself credit for.
Oh,
yeah, I really do, because I've seen you like in hard social situations. You become like social lubricant, really. Like,
okay.
And I think I know some of that's like expectation survivalist, like, no, and so I think you would do quite well. I think you have a good level of knowledge of who you need to be kind to and charm to survive. And I think that's like, yeah. So you're
gonna fight your way out, and I'm just gonna socially lubricate myself out. That's weird, but
I will probably also socially lubricate myself out. Yeah, like I can't.
You're only gonna fight when you have to. I just don't know how to fight.
Yeah,
but that's all right.
Truthfully, I'm a runner.
There you go.
Yeah, I would run my way out of it. I would first try everything I could to read social cues.
Sure.
And to do what I needed to do there. But sometimes I'm not great with social cues. So the likelihood is I'm booking it.
I think when you're in a good spot, you are. But just, I mean, as we all know, with survival crisis brains, they don't work quite as well. So it's harder to read social cues.
It is harder to read social cues
when we're in survival mode.
Yeah. So I'm a runner. I'm a runner.
Which feels like we're kind of in right now, survival mode.
I love that this episode is really centered around a follow-up. First of all, thank you, listeners, for giving us some time. We've had some medical and then some pretty uh, unplanned personal losses,
Yeah.
um, which I think most personal losses are unplanned. Sorry, I don't know why I preface that. They were surprises, really big surprises. And so we appreciate the time and space because, things like that just make you not ready to talk about mental health.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And not, sometimes I think when we aren't on, people think like we're off on these wonderful, amazing vacations. And not that we shouldn't be, or those wouldn't be appropriate to take time off for, but this particular round was, yeah, a lot of stuff going on for both of us. So we do
Yeah.
appreciate the patience
Yeah, it is really
with
appreciated, like
life.
really deeply. Yeah. But we do get to do a follow-up episode from our last episode where we really posed that question of not only like, is this as bad as we think it is? I'm going to say a general consensus, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what we came to last time. It
Yeah.
is. It's bad and the world is burning.
The world is burning.
Yeah.
And
And maybe
now,
it always has been, but for us, more noticeable.
yeah,
Right.
I think there's truth to both sides, right? Like maybe posing the question is like, is this as bad as it has always been, or does it just feel worse? I think
Right.
both of those things actually can be true because I don't think we got to the point of political instability overnight,
Right.
right? So much had to lead to that. So
Great
I do
point.
think both are true the more I sit and think about it, and of course reflect on what's happened in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
which has been wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, if I may just launch into it, we'll see how it goes, is we had talked a lot about doing an episode of what do you do when things get really bad and you don't know what to do?
Yeah.
And I think, in previous, and I'll share a little bit, if you don't mind, about kind of Uncle Mike really posing this question is like,
Yes, please. Oh, yes, please.
and Uncle Mike is just a wonderful human. He is
Hmm.
deceased. And he was probably one of the most foundational adults, like familial adult relationships that I've had where he was also a social servant. And
Yeah.
we would talk about government. He knew the government quite intimately,
Yes.
there's a certain, once you've served in government, you can really see and feel what bureaucracy looks like, both in a positive way. And
Mhm.
then, of course, in the stereotypical negative ways, like bureaucracy is kind of slow, there's lots of things.
Yeah.
And he really posed a question of like, what do you do when things are so bad you don't know what to do?
Yeah.
And we have been sitting on that for now like years. How do
Hmm.
we talk about that? How do we approach that subject? And then I feel a little bit like the circumstances we're in now, and I'm really talking social justice politically, right?
Right.
Have sort of put us as social workers in that bucket.
Yeah.
What do we do when we don't know what to do?
Yeah. And I think that goes for all of us, but I think sometimes in our realm, people will look to us, right? They'll look to kind of the social workers, like, or the mental health providers. Okay, like what do
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
when when it's all too much?
Yeah.
But and I think there's gonna be, just like everything, this is gonna be on a spectrum um for people, because I think you can look big picture, like the world feels like it's coming to an end. Literally, how do I prepare for this? Right?
Oh, yeah.
We can look at a spectrum on that
Yeah.
side. But then we can also look at everything feels like too much. Like, how do I regulate enough to survive these next 5 minutes? Right. So we can look at
Yes.
like pulling it way, 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 way back in. So whether it's, as we were joking, zombies,
Yeah.
or how do I regulate myself to get my breathing back, to
Yeah.
right, to just make sure that I can calm down enough to get through these next few minutes or hour or whatever that is. Um and
I I really like your zombies comment and I want to go back to it. Can you uh you got to tell why you
why
said zombies because this was in our pre-chat and it's now what I would consider should be the theme of the episode.
of the episode? Okay. Annie and I previously were chatting about the world burning and what's going on and what do we do, and um maybe it is the end of days, maybe we do need to start prepping for this, and we were talking about what we might start doing, things we,
Yeah.
all the stuff. We were really going for it, and I just kind of stopped, and I, because I say whatever comes to my mind when I'm with Annie, I just said it was supposed to be zombies. We were not supposed to be preparing for the end of days because politically things are so awful
Yeah.
that there's, and I'm not going to say that zombies aren't possible too, because I believe in
Yeah.
aliens. So zombies are possible,
Love it.
but it wasn't supposed to be this. It wasn't supposed to be this political unrest that truly could happen.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be this kind of more far off zombie apocalypse we were preparing for.
Totally.
And I
Totally.
just couldn't help but say it was supposed to be zombies. Like, I'm not ready for this yet.
It's like we were supposed to be like machetes deep, like cool leather jackets,
Yes.
not like worried about a Great Depression and famine. It's just not as glamorous when like so yeah, when I imagined quote unquote doomsday prepping, I imagined like just this dystopian again. There's a lot of leather in my mind when I visualize the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Just super cute leather jackets. And I mean they're bite resistant, so they're like,
Of course they are.
they're usable on multiple levels.
Yeah.
Not like what it really is like as an adult, which is what we were reflecting on. Because one of the things that we're going to kind of work on is like, how do we, and this is kind of the conclusion from last time, is like, what I can do is I can care for those around me. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make like our home a bit more sustainable and fruitful, not even metaphorically, like literally fruitful, like we can plant trees and things like that, to support our neighbors if we come to things like a Great Depression again and food does become scarce or things like along those natures, or becomes really like not affordable. How can we supplement some of that with our own sustainability? So it was supposed to be zombies, but
But it's not.
it's not. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
They might come. They might.
They could be here any minute.
But that brings up a good point. So Annie was talking about that sort of prepping and like how do you make your home more fruitful in case the end of days comes. And that is something you can do when you don't know what to do.
I
But
love it.
I want to step it one more back. And I think where that came from for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when you didn't know what to do, you listened to trusted people that do know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah,
If
that's
you're
right.
not sure about this certain thing that's happening, find the true knowledgeable people in that area and start gathering info.
And
Start listening to them and what they have to say, and maybe some other opinions. I think we always want to gather multiple opinions.
yeah,
That's something you can do when you don't know what to do.
I think too, like one really easy way to do that too, because I think there's a lot of people now that are going to feed you a lot of different information.
Yes.
history can be, and we have the Great Depression to
Ooh,
really look back on. I mean, that was not very long ago, right? Like,
yeah.
so we can still tap into like how communities survived during that time, and work to like what worked for them, let's see if we
Yeah.
can't replicate that. And I think, you just socially, you have a better chance of survival when you work together, which I think is hard for a lot of like the American nature to buy in on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which not always, but I think for some Americans, we are so ingrained in us this fierce independence, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. I think it's one of the coolest parts of being a female in the United States is I have this fierce, I almost feel like it's my right to be independent, which is,
Yeah.
like it's written, right, that it is beautiful. So freaking beautiful.
Love it.
And sometimes we need to recognize that that also can coexist within a community. And so we really need our communities to be strong in times like this. And I think that, and I know I'm getting kind of higher level. So, but I think strengthened, empowered communities is how we will get through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've really started looking at what does that look like for our household? How do we bring that to fruition? And um, food is one of those things. So, because I think food keeps it's basic survival.
Yes.
Um, it's also a beautiful way to share relationship. Like we don't in the United States, we don't see that survival piece of it as much because
Yeah.
if you've been born here, you have very likely um not experienced tremendous levels of hunger, although a lot of our children actually do.
Mm-hmm.
But if so some people here may understand food scarcity. As a nation, we don't really honor that.
Yes. Agreed.
But it is a beautiful way to share relationship and to meet somebody's basic need. And so I think we are kind of looking at like, well, how can our little backyard produce more food for our community? That's one of the things we're going to try to do. And could be all for naught. Worst case, best case scenario, we get to feed and strengthen our community. Worst case scenario, we get more bees because we're going to plant some like trees that have like flowers. It's like it's a real win-win for
Right.
everyone, I think. So that is one thing that we're going to try to do.
Yeah. And I think even outside of like a survivalist level on that, those sorts of activities, whether you're doing them on your own or with the people in your community, like you're bringing them into garden with you, right?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Those sort of hands-on things can also be helpful, I think, when mentally and emotionally you're struggling with I don't even know how to handle a thing. Focusing on something like gardening, like getting your hands in the dirt, can help sort of bring you back out of that spiral
Mm,
um into the moment, which can be very helpful when you don't know what to do.
I
Things
love
to
that.
bring you back into the moment will help kind of regulate your brain so you can think a little clearer.
You know what I love about this is like maybe a great or a good tool for people in considering like how do I get ready for things if they get bad,
Yeah.
or like kind of what do we do when we don't know what to do. Maybe a good thing to consider is like for a checks and balance for your own self. Is this helping me physically plan for the future? Is it helping calm my nervous system? And
Ooh.
each activity should do both because I think that might
Yes.
be the determining factor between that and like kind of going bananas.
And
Does that make sense?
you're right, because you could do number one
Yep.
and start spiraling further.
Yes.
Oh, I love this. Annie. Yes.
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 I'm I'm loving this tool. I'm going to be thinking a lot about this as I like take steps forward also because one, a calm nervous system is so important to our well-being and the well-being of those around us. So it's like a gift not just to yourself, but to your community, like to those you love.
Mm.
A calm nervous system is awesome. Oh, such a gift. But also like we do need to like start making taking steps and like getting ready and preparing and caring and like especially if you're a caring professional, this time is going to be super difficult because if you're empathetic, you are seeing literally we're seeing families torn apart. And it is the impact that that has on your nervous system. If you
Hmm.
are an empathetic human or in the helping professional or helping profession, is going to take a massive toll on you.
Oof. Yeah.
You know, like there's no way around it. Um, so I think I love this idea of like feeling productive and it's calming your nervous system. And gardening is like a 10 of 10 in that
Oof.
area. Like there's
Yeah.
so much research that gardening is just really good for you. Like um I love it. Okay, what else can we think of that's going to do both? Because I really want people to feel this both.
Hmm. Hmm. I think um that for me, a lot of it is that gathering information. But I like that sort of stuff. And
That's awesome.
I can do that and then organize it in a way that does calm my nervous system
I
rather
love
than
that.
spiraling. I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people, gathering info could just make you spiral.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
want to make sure you're the right type of person that info gathering is calming
Yeah.
where you can make it a calming activity because I'd like reorganize it and color code it and
Mm,
get it its own
mm.
binder, and that all makes me very happy. Like that makes my heart happy.
Oh my God. Yeah. Put some sticky tabs on it. Oh, yeah.
You know it. You know
Mm.
it.
Maybe some nice highlighters. Oh, yeah.
But
I,
that's the sort of stuff that works for me. I like information from lots of different places to help me form an opinion. So it doesn't tend to make me spiral like I think it could with some people.
well, and I think too, depending on what information outlet you're using, if you're only
Of
using one
course.
information outlet, some information is framed in a fear-based, which by the way, there's so much to legitimately be afraid of right now. I think that is just very validating that I would encourage people to not like even the inflection. We've talked about this a little bit, but like the inflection, the tone that information is given in can put you into fight or flight, right? Like it's kind of the point. It's really what draws people in a lot of times. So you can read the exact same thing, which can be more helpful, I think, if you're sensitive tonal, because I want people to still get that information. And I need people to know that you can brainwash yourself. Like,
Yes.
and a lot of like news and media outlets really thrive on this ability to kind of so just be aware that you possess the capabilities to brainwash yourself. That I think is just helpful for every human to know. And to just be mindful of the information gathering. Is it putting me into fight or flight?
Right.
And then is there a way for me to get the same information and not be in fight or flight? Or is it just the information itself putting me there? Which could be because there are lots of things to be afraid of. So
Right.
um yeah, I like that. When you do that, when you gather information, what do you gather? Like what is kind of, can you give me an example of what this would look like?
Um, I mean, there's different, I mean, if we look at like less intense, like in my new role as a director, this is a new role for me. I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time because I've not done it before. There was not a manual handed to me on how to be a manager or
Yeah.
director. So there are definitely times where it's not true survival, but I do feel like I don't know what to do at all in this situation. So it helps me to gather, like you said, there's, trusted websites I'll go to, there's books
Nice.
I'm reading, but then I also talk to the trusted people around me. I
Yeah.
talk to my supervisor, I talk to the other directors, I talk to people at work that have just been there longer, so have kind of the history of why a problem might be arising, so that I trust, because I've done my work, I trust myself, but I want to be able to back that up when I make a decision. I don't want to just tell someone who's going to be affected by my decision that, well, I just felt like this was the right thing to do. I want to have my reasons around doing it.
Yeah.
So, in a more survival instinct, again, that's the area I've never looked into. I haven't done anything about it. So, I don't want to waste a bunch of time and energy on projects that maybe wouldn't be beneficial to survival.
Oh, I love that.
So, it turns into more of like, I want to make the most of my time and energy.
Yeah.
But I need to know what the right thing to do is first before I
Nice.
start putting all my time and energy into it.
Yeah.
So that's the route I would start going, is like talking to you. Now I
Yeah.
know that this is like a thing that I should start doing. So I'm going to go to all those good websites, right? The emergency preparedness websites and
Ooh, I should do that. That's a good
all,
idea.
yeah, like what should I put in a tub? Like
Oh,
what are, I don't, do I even have a flashlight that works here? I don't know, right?
Susan, what?
I'm sure I do. No, there's flashlights all over the place. I don't know if they work. But like, instead of just sitting and spiraling on what would I put in an emergency bag,
Yeah.
there are people that have done this and been through this and know what to put in the bag. So why wouldn't I go talk to them?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I love that. Also, I don't love that you don't know where a functioning flashlight is in your house because you've had knee problems and you have several sets of stairs in your house.
I don't have any problems anymore, or at least not right now. It's fine.
Oh, oh, Susan, Susan. But I think you've made a really great point, and I like this. I like this perspective. I do think it may not be natural for most people, but I would hope that most people would, because it's you're like describing how every like solution focused approach to a problem should start is by like
Mhm.
that information gathering stage. And I do think you're right. One, if you're not an academic or you're not trained in it, it seems frivolous and it
Yeah.
feels like it slows the process.
Yeah.
And I don't think it does. And again, it could be just because like, our profession is so based in research and things like that that I'm like, ooh, I love the information gathering stage also. But I think you've made a really good point where I would really encourage people to do that as well, right? Like, and you can consider this maybe a flag in your information gathering session
Yeah.
that, like, hey, things could get really bad. Let's see how we can keep our community strong. And so I would keep maybe this is the sign that people should start that information gathering stage, and it will look different in every community and in every climate.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in urban versus rural, right? Because rural is going to be very different because you're very spread apart.
I don't got neighbors.
That's right. That's right. And of course, I'm a person that loves like city life. I've always been that way. We have neighbors literally like 6 feet apart. We've got the old school houses that were just built right next to each
Right
other.
next to each other. Yeah.
And I love it. It's not living for everyone. I get that. Oh man, I can't stress that enough. I think of like Kristen, like my best friend from college. I think she would not love
No
living
way.
like this. And I'm like, I can't get enough. Like I'm so excited every time I
Give
see
me all
her.
the neighbors.
I'm like, hey guys, hey, we're both alive. And now I know that because I see you. I don't know why that makes logical sense to me, but that's how my brain works.
I
Like,
love it.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's very ridiculous. But in
Uh,
fact, I think my neighbor is in Vancouver right now. Yeah, he does like growing stuff like water irrigation. And so he works a lot with cranberries. So he's like texted us, he's like, oh, I'm in Vancouver or gonna be. It's like, oh, that sweet?
Well, he can text me. I'll meet him for coffee or something.
Oh, you would love him too. They're just really cool. So yeah, we're very fortunate, but
But this brings up another point, like you were talking about, when you don't know what to do.
mhm,
Like we say every episode, it's all about relationships, right? Having these relationships, talking to people about what you're thinking or feeling, or hey, this is feeling bigger than just me. How do we,
yeah.
as a friendship, or we as a community, again, come together? And I don't know why. I guess maybe just because I'm tired, but like, how do we pool our resources again so we're not wasting time and energy?
Yeah,
When you're in survival mode, all of that counts. All of that time and energy counts. So
that's
let's
right.
work together.
Yeah.
Let's work together when we don't know what to do. Because you might know what to do on this thing, and I'll know what to do on that thing. Let's share.
I love that and does not come natural to the American spirit. And I actually think it does come natural to the American spirit. I think that current politics have taken that spirit and really labeled it like you're a communist when I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah.
I think that there are things about the American spirit that I love. I think it has truly shaped who I am, and it's why I have the capacity to do a lot of the things that I do. And so, one of my favorite things Uncle Mike and I used to say, in fact, I said it to him once, and I really resonate with that because he's a veteran, right?
Mhm.
So obviously, respect for this nation was of the utmost importance, and he risked his life for this nation, right? That's a huge deal.
Yes.
And
Huge.
so I was explaining to him, and I love the fact that I'm an American. Like there is like a pride factor there that's really strong.
Yes.
And so what we really kind of came up with was like, Uncle Mike, you can love your country and hate your president.
Yeah.
And two things can be the same, or you can hate a political movement,
Right.
right? Like, so I really do feel this sense of pride about being an American. And I do think it's the American spirit to have a strong community. And like, how do we stay strong? How do we find each other's strengths and build on that? Like, we can just build and build and build on that. So I agree with you, though. I think that's what we need to do. What are you good at? And I think it's a center of influence too, right? Like, I'm not a politician. I'm not my center of influence is my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's to your point, it comes down to what are you good at? How do we not duplicate services? Kind of exactly what you're saying, because if things get really, really bad, which from my lens they already are, but like they could definitely be way worse.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make those moments count and build on each other's strengths to protect our communities?
Yeah. And I mean, I think we see it in like natural disasters. And I think this is a similar
Mm,
idea. Those, again, we don't have control over, right?
yeah,
They happen a little faster than maybe what we're currently feeling. So there's less time to prep. But I think you do see that after a natural disaster, right? You see not only just people coming together because
yeah,
that's what we do, but like, hey, I know that lady over there uses a walker, so she probably couldn't get out of her home. Or I
yeah,
know my neighbor over here has a generator and that family needs it more right now, right? When we know each other and know each other's strengths,
yeah,
then we can do more in those moments because
yeah,
it's not like, well, I hate everybody and I've never talked to any of my neighbors, so I have no idea
yeah,
what to do.
yeah.
So I think we can look at how natural disaster survival plays out and
Nice.
start using some of that in preparation, if that makes sense.
I love that. I think that's a great tool. I and I love the point of, so I think there's two ideas here, and this is, I think I'm so glad you said it. Resource scarcity is obviously very scary because it has to do with survival. You make it or you break it if you have resources. If you start, and this is what I would really encourage our listeners to do, relationship is everything. So start those relationships with your neighbors now.
Yes.
Start them under the preference, like under the guise of resource sharing, which is why things like food, sharing food is like, right now it's not a, a super, super, super scarce resource. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to underplay it. If you're in poverty right now, it is actually it's a scarce resource, food.
It is.
Like I want to be very real that exists. But if you have the capacity to share food and start relationships that way, that actually will say a lot as to how, as things get worse, if they're going to get really worse. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can start a relationship based on resource sharing, that will change people around you. Like that will shape how they have relationship with other people too. Like
Right.
sharing in relationship is everything. Like and so I love that. I think that is a great way to view the lens or to view things through the lens of natural disaster. How did that work for them? And you nailed it. You know this person. I'm going to share with them because they have a walker and can't get out of their home.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, if I could advise our listeners to do anything, it would be to start those relationships with your neighbors and neighbors relationships. They can be complicated, right?
Yes.
Just like anything. And I want to honor that. And I know a lot of our listeners are probably going to have to be the bigger person in starting some relationships.
Sure.
But I want you to know that we support you and we want you to be safe. And I think that's one of the ways that I think we can promote safety for our listeners.
And I do wonder too if in getting to know your neighbors, I would even stretch it to community. I don't think it has to be,
Mm-hmm.
because for I'm rural, I don't have
Yeah.
neighbors. So like
That's
going next door is not a thing, but can I learn what the battleground Vancouver community has, right? And
nice.
learn people and organizations within that community that I can start building those
Love
relationships
that.
with. Yes, right.
Yeah.
And I think it also, if you can do it prior to being in survival mode, right? If we can start building those relationships now, one, that's just good mental health to build
Love that.
relationships.
Yep.
I mean, done.
Bam. Yep.
But two, I think it can also help you find out not only who to share resources with and who to know, but who to know is not safe,
Yeah. It's a great point.
who to know not to go to when the shit
Yes.
hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that that neighbor or that organization or that building is not a safe place to be. So when the shit hits the fan, I'm going to avoid,
Love that.
I'm not going to be mean, right? But I'm going to avoid, no, Annie.
I mean, you guys, it's so sad you can't see my face right now, but Susan was like, "I'm not going to be mean," and my
I
facial
roll.
response was like, "I mean, you said you weren't going to be mean. I make there's not. I don't make that promise." Yeah, we have different levels.
Yeah, it'd just be good to know like which house is going to most likely be filled with zombies and maybe I'm not going to go knock on their door, right?
Yeah, you've made a very, very, very good point. I also like that hits two prongs, right? Getting to know your community is good for your mental health, right? Building relationships is
Yes.
just good for your mental health. It's also good for forward thinking for a strengthened community. So it's like exactly like we said, it's those two pronged. Is it good for your mental health? Is it strengthening like the community? Bam. That's another thing you can do. How would you advise? Because I know how I would, but I'm urban, right?
Yeah.
I'm stacked right up against my neighbors. I love it so much. How would you recognize or how would you support our rural listeners to kind of start that community building?
Yeah, that's great. Um, for me, I think you start at like the community centers. I happened to actually go to the Battleground Community Center the other day for a work
Nice.
purpose. And it just kind of hit me like, I should have known where this building was, and I should be following them on social media. And um
Love this.
so for me, who's an introvert and already works with so many people, like I don't love the idea of like going and making a bunch of friends at city council, right? But can
Yeah.
I know where the community building is, right? And can I look at their schedule and maybe there's a meeting I could attend, or I could volunteer at something and learn more about people that way. So I'd start with those like super obvious community centered activities, probably. And I get that that's not as easy, right? I can't walk across the street. That's a
Yeah.
15-minute drive from where I
Yeah.
am to
Yeah.
get to the
Yeah.
community center. But also, I realized when I did that the other day, I've been here 2 years now, but like I haven't really like driven around. So in a true emergency, I wouldn't even know where anything is because I go to work and I come home. But
Yeah.
like I should probably know where City Hall is, right? I should probably know where the high school is. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of time in emergencies, that's where they send you, right?
Yeah.
So knowing where some of these important buildings and community groups, even just physically knowing where they are,
Hmm.
I think is going to be helpful to me. It's going to help calm me, like we talked about calming. If I
Yeah.
know the route to get to the safe place,
Yeah.
that's going to calm me down, right? That's that
Yeah.
information gathering for
Yeah.
me, is knowing where to go and who to talk to when it gets bad.
I
So
really
that's where
like
I would start.
I love doing it in this like it's almost like your development of like your emergency plan, like emergency and like this natural disaster. I really like this lens because one, who we probably all should be prepared for an like a natural disaster anyway. I
Right.
mean, hopefully wherever you're at, the statistics of it happening are super low. Like that's what I hope for everybody. But it's, anything could happen, like I don't want to overstress people with anxiety. But of course, if you have anxiety, you probably have already thought about all the possible ways something could go bad. So I don't think I'm starting anyone on an anxiety plan. I think that's probably that train's been going for a while, especially if you listen to our podcast,
That's right.
we
You've
are
already been on that train.
we are very familiar with the loves and ins and outs of anxiety. But I really like that. I think it's kind of that two-pronged approach, right? Like it'll be good for your mental health to just kind of know and have these plans and like take some of the unknown elements out of it.
Yeah.
And again, it's good for your future plan. So I do think one of my observations, I think about kind of, and this is a hashtag throwback to our last episode where we talked about are things as bad as we think they are, or have they always been this bad? And we kind of came to like, yes, things are as bad as we,
Mm-hmm.
like they're as bad, if not worse. And both things could be true because I think when I reflect on the patriarchs and matriarchs that were warning us and saying like bad things are happening. And so I think that is true and this is true. Both are true.
Yeah.
So I really like this idea. Oh, sorry. I digressed a little bit, but I will say I think a lot of our generation and certainly the younger generations to come, I think we're the first generation to be a little bit soft in our nation's really young.
Mm-hmm.
And we have experienced, especially if you're white in this country, you've experienced pseudo governmental stability. So it's
Yes.
perceived governmental stability. Um,
Yes.
and so you don't have a gauge at which you can be like, oh, things aren't going well and things might not be going well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
so I love this because you should prepare for a natural disaster. That's a great thing to prepare for. And it could help you if things get really bad, if not worse, and it will strengthen your community.
Yeah. It's like a good first step.
Yeah.
And then once you have that down, then maybe prepping for end of days won't feel as big or as scary because you'll already sort of be on that journey
Yeah.
and then can kind of grow and expand it. Unless you're one of those that's already ready for an emergency, then great. Start prepping, man. We need you.
I will say, I think one of my biggest cautions for people like prepping for doomsday preppers is like, I think having seen a little bit of the show and have known some doomsday preppers, I think one of the things that gets a little bit forgotten in that prep, and what I would love to stress for people, is that relationship is everything.
Yes.
And you need that for survival just as much as you need an escape plan, canned food. And we've been shown a lot of like apocalyptic shows and things like that. Um, and it all comes down to like, they're usually quite dramatic, but you know, people are killing each other over resources and blah, blah, blah. And we see that actually happening in the world today. But what I
Sure.
want to stress for people is like, if you are prone to be a doomsday, like a physical prepper, you know, like you want
Oh, like a
that extreme.
true
Mhm.
prepper. Okay.
First of all, that's awesome. You're going to be a huge asset to community, but also you need to invest in relationships. Like,
Yes.
yeah, and be careful that your pantry planning isn't spiraling you out of control mentally. Like,
Yeah.
you know, pay attention. What is your nervous system telling you? Like,
Or taking you further away from your relationships. I
that's
think we've
right.
seen that with some people that
Yeah.
do that really intense prepping. They get so scared of everything else, which I get. They're having anxiety. That's why they're prepping, right? But they pull further away from any and all relationships. And like you said, that's not going to work. We need people.
Oh man, speaking of like studying the past and ways to like survive, one of the coolest things I've heard is like that during the AIDS pandemic, the gay community had like a saying to like get them through that time. In the morning, they mourned and buried the dead.
Mhm.
In the afternoon, they lobbied. And then in the evening, they danced and they partied.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, I got so choked up. And it was basically, it was like this awesome woman who was like, um, you know, like gorgeous, like just man, okay. Ugh, sorry, I'm getting kind of choked up.
oh,
But like this gorgeous queen, and she's on there and she is in like awesome rough drag, like full beard, just
oh,
a huge giant wig.
yes.
And she's basically like, this is your permission to celebrate. Like, this is your permission to dance to get us through this time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I have just really taken that to heart and like, you have to mourn, you have to fight, and you have to dance. And
Yep.
like, I was just like, oh my gosh, it there's like balance in surviving, you know, like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, dude, I was like, this is again, and it's kind of like studying how this community hit so hard by this. How did they survive? Not just survive, they thrived and like,
Yeah.
and affected political change. And you know what I mean? Like they were this powerful, unstoppable force. And I think it's because of that balance.
Yes.
And so I don't know if looking at history to like survive, um, yeah, I was really, that's how I want to do, that's how I want to do it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you know,
Cause life is messy and beautiful, and it's ups and it's downs and it's goods and it's bads and it's all of it. And we have to, and I don't love to say have to, but I think we have to embrace it all
yeah,
to not just survive but thrive.
amen.
If all you do is mourn, you're never going to get anywhere. If all you do is fight, you're going to be too tired to get anywhere,
That's
right? If
right.
all you
That's
do is
right.
dance, nothing's ever going to get done.
Yep.
So you've
Yep.
got to do it all. You've got
Yep.
to embrace it all and do what you can in all those areas to truly survive and thrive.
I,
Kudos to them. Beautiful.
and you know, the other part I loved about that is like, you can't really mourn by yourself efficiently. You
No,
can't lobby by yourself efficiently.
no.
And, you know, I do not hate a dance party of one occasionally, but Dance parties are parties.
Yeah. They last way longer when there's more than just one of me. So
Well, they're a lot more fun. You know what
then
I'm
they're
saying?
way more fun.
Yeah, we all know what we're saying here. We were all 20 once. And Susan and I used to go to clubs together.
Hmm.
Oh God, we were such idiots. And it was great. It was great. I love every memory we have at the tube. Before
Oh,
it got classy, before it was the
yeah.
gross class tube. Yeah.
Yeah. Then yeah.
Ugh. You guys, the tube used to be the grossest, tiniest little dance club.
It was like seriously gross. It was
It
nasty,
was so
but I
disgusting.
loved it.
I loved it
Like,
so
don't touch anything. You just walk in and dance. Don't touch anything. Are you going to stick to the floor? Yes. But
absolutely. You're gonna stick to the floor. Like, yeah, yeah. Oh God.
don't put your purse down. Don't touch that table.
Yeah. Don't touch anything.
Just
Just
dance.
rub up on people next to you. That
That's
was,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
That's what,
Oh, then they tried
oh,
to class the joint up and there were like little candles on the tables and it was like, we're done.
it didn't work either.
It didn't work.
They were like the Amazon battery powered candles that were just disgusting. And I mean, they basically just put red curtains and a fresh
Yeah,
paint job. And
100%.
then
100%.
they added more seating in an area that's like literally the size of a hallway,
Yeah,
like
it was dumb.
also we were getting older. And I think,
Oh, maybe that was it.
yeah, God, I actually truly look back on that time fondly. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I do love dancing. And I'll always love dancing.
Huh.
Never been good at it, will never be good at it. Still love it. Just still love it.
Oh.
Yep. hmm And that's a beautiful thing. Mm.
Music is amazing. Does all of us a lot of good.
It really, really does. Hey, did you know that this is a fun fact for people and a little mental health tool? That's one of the most efficient ways to get dopamine delivered to your receptors is to listen to music you like. They're doing obviously
Oh,
tons of studies because we're trying to find like how do we help people in the opioid crisis, right? Like, so how
yeah.
do we get things there naturally? So jam out to the music you like. Jam out.
Permission to turn that volume dial up.
Ah, permission granted. I actually really like this episode and I'm glad we did it because I think I even have walked away with wisdom and maybe more focused guidance. Like, is this
Yeah.
calming my nervous system and is it helping me prepare and strengthen my community?
Yep.
Those are the activities we want to be doing.
Yep.
And also, you guys, relationship, 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 relationship.
Always.
Always.
Look for the merch.
Look for the merch. It was supposed to be zombies.
Oh, I should have relationship, just relationship a million times on some sort of merch. Or it was supposed to be zombies. I would take that too.
I don't know. I think I might put it's supposed to be zombies on a shirt because
Okay.
it's very funny in my heart. I think it's really, really resonating with it. Oh, so awesome. Well, with that
I
one,
love it.
I think what do you think? Should we wrap?
Yeah.
All right. You guys hang in there. Hang in there and
Yep.
um we're gonna make it. And we'll mourn when things get sad.
Yep.
And we are going to have to lobby.
Yeah,
We
we
are
are.
going to have to be a strong voice together.
Mm-hmm.
And we will party in the evenings.
Yeah.
Yeah, together.
Party hard together in the evenings.
Hard. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, amen. Okay, with
Wrap.
that, yes. Don't forget those stacked breathing. I do that
Yeah.
all the time now. Ugh, I love me that stacked breathing. Anyway, you've heard that already for
Yeah.
this. All right, you guys,
Um,
stay strong
yes, we love you
so much.
so much. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.